In this lesson, let's talk a little bit about the different types of growth models and the purpose of each. Let's start with a very simple question. How does your product grow? Now, this question might seem really simple on the surface, right? But go around and ask different people on your team this question and see what type of answers you get. What you might get is a variety of answers that range from we build a great product to some answer around a financial model to an answer that takes the shape of a funnel. The problem is that what you'll probably find is that everybody has a different answer and view on the question, or that the answer represents an incomplete picture of the system, or that the answer focuses on something like the output of money rather than usage. Now, these differences present a really huge problem. The problem manifests in a number of different ways. First, people end up focusing on different things or running in opposite directions when they have different mental models of how the product grows. The second problem is it's really hard to get alignment around different initiatives when everybody's kind of viewing things through a different frame. 3, it's really hard to identify problems in a systematic way when everybody's not really comparing things in an apples to apples basis. And 4, when all companies are constrained by money, people, and time, how do we place our huge strategic investments when everybody is viewing things in a different way? It's also hard to anticipate where growth might level off and make sure that you're growing in a sustainable and repeatable way over time. And most importantly, how do we take a systematic and predictable view on growth rather than a super random approach? For all these reasons and many more, this is why answering the question, how does your product grow, is the number one question you should be able to answer within your organization. Answering this question starts with our growth model. A growth model is a qualitative or quantitative representation of how your product grows. It answers that question in a qualitative or quantitative way. So there's 3 different types of growth models that we're going to go through building in this module. A qualitative model, which is mapping out the steps of our loops. A loop-specific quant model, which takes a single loop and it translates it into a quantitative spreadsheet, and an end-to-end quantitative model that combines all of the different interactions within our product in a quantitative representation. When we have these models, they really represent the foundation, the theoretical underpinning of how growth happens within our product and business. It also gives us a blueprint to how our product grows and transforms growth from an art to in science. And last but not least, it provides us a key communication tool in order to establish a common language around growth. Now, as we go out and build these different growth models, something that you're going to hear a lot is a quote from this guy, George Box, who's a very famous statistician. He once said that all models are wrong, but some are useful. What does he mean by that? Well, why some models are not useful is that they're either formed from the wrong perspective, so they're created with the inflow and outflow of capital rather than users or customers. They might be formed with the wrong underlying components, things like funnels rather than loops. Or as we build these models, we try to pursue perfection, which renders the model useless by making it too detailed, too complicated to really use on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis within our organization. But that quote doesn't mean that models are useless. Without models, we end up shooting in the dark, completely random way. It also makes it really hard to discuss initiatives when we don't have a model because we end up speaking different languages to each other. And also, it's really hard to basically take a view on our product and our business in a longer term or longer than a shorter term view because we can't really see what's in front of us. As we go through the different types of models, the models build on each other as we build them. So where we start is with the qualitative model. This represents kind of the foundation of the model pyramid. After we build the qualitative model, it helps us inform our single loop quant models. And as we build out the single loop quant models, we're able to bring those together into an end-to-end quantitative model. These 3 different types of models have different strengths and weaknesses, so we need to make sure that we're using the right model for the right situation. The qualitative model is amazing for broader communication, brainstorming, and strategic thinking. but it lacks the accuracy of a quantitative model in terms of helping us measure different things for prioritization, goal setting, or understanding different outcomes. The single loop quant model helps us validate and prioritize ideas around a single loop without dealing with the complication of an end-to-end model, but it doesn't really help us understand how multiple loops or components work together and influence each other. In an end-to-end quantitative model, it's great for goal setting, building confidence around huge strategic investments, and making directionally correct predictions about the overall growth of our business as we bring all of the different components together. But it's typically too complicated to understand fully unless you're living in it, so it's terrible for communication across a broader team. As we go throughout this module, in the next section, we're going to start by building our qualitative growth model step by step. Once we do that, we'll go through a step-by-step process about how to build the single loop quant model. After we build the single loop quant model, we'll start to bring together some components and sort of approach it from a top-down perspective by building an end-to-end quantitative model. And finally, we'll end this module by talking about different ways that you can implement these various models within your organization. In the next section, we're going to kick off the step-by-step of building your qualitative growth model.